And we're live. I don't know what that means. Either way, welcome everybody. My name is Christian Antoine, and I am here with Angela Johnson because today's a big day. Why is it a big day, Angela?
It's Monday?
Yes, that's right. August 1st. No, 3rd.
2nd.
3rd, 4th. What day is it? I don't know. We're here because this has been a long time coming, and I'm excited to talk to Angela today because we're going to talk about her book, The Scrummaster Files, Secrets Every Coach Should Know, and maybe tell you some stories. Maybe you'll learn a little bit about what was behind this, why this book, and hopefully come away with a little bit more knowledge and maybe some inkling to go get it. So, you ready?
Sure.
All right. First thing is why? Why this book?
That's kind of a
That's
big
deep.
one.
I just went deep, didn't I?
Why?
When did the idea? Let's instead of why, let's say when. When did the idea
Well,
start?
there were several attempts before what we have as the Scrummaster Files came into being. So way before you even joined the team, when we were pretty much me and a couple of
The proverbial we, you mean
of
me?
friends who were helping me on the side. I think it was about 2011, beginning of 2011. There was a client that we had a really successful transformation with, and I wanted to tell that story. And I even traveled to visit them, not because they, were actively working with me anymore. They didn't need me, which was a happy ending to that story. But I just had some follow-up conversations about, what do you think? Do you think it's worth telling our story or what we went through? And there were some people who were no longer at that organization for good reasons. But the feeling started to become, well, that's not really cool. If we want to tell some of these stories or we tell what happened and we don't have their permission, can we make this anonymous? So boom, all of a sudden the idea of having an anonymous quality to the stories entered the picture. So I thought about it, went away, started jotting some of those stories down. At that time, some of the people in Minnesota may remember the Project Management Institute wanted to have an Agile user group. And I had been the volunteer facilitator of that group for a couple of years. So at one of our events, I took some of those anonymous stories and just handed them out, split them into groups and let them work through those. And kind of tongue-in-cheek, I called them the Scrummaster Files. And people really seemed to like those. So I thought, well, maybe we're onto something. But as I started to get further into that particular client story, it just felt wrong. It felt so overwhelmingly wrong to me that this isn't my story. This is theirs. And who am I to take, some of the things that they were doing and put it out there? Because in some cases, I wasn't even involved in some of the decision making, nor should I have been, right? Coaches help you help yourself. They don't tell you what to do. So I sat down with an editor in the Agile community at the Scrum Gathering in 2015 because he had been interested in whether or not I was going to put that story out there. And at the end of our conversation, I'll never forget what he said to me. He's like, there's a reason this story isn't going to make it. There's a reason this story isn't going to get told. You don't really want to tell this story. And I'm like, I don't. You're right. I don't. So I left the 2015 Scrum Gathering in a completely different direction, thinking, well, then I'm just going to talk about experiences regarding Scrum. Why the heck Scrum doesn't work, or what makes it fail, and how do you turn it around? And sometime into that process, I had the icky feeling again. And I'm like, why does this feel so gross? Why does this just feel wrong? Because there is no prescription. There's no prescription. And I didn't want people thinking, in me sharing some of those examples, oh, I can just do this. Oh, I can just follow Spotify, right? I can just take these 12 steps and I'm Agile. It's not a destination. So that got chucked. And the Scrummaster Files got dusted off and used in some of our classes. I think you even use, a couple of the stories in your advanced CSM. And people really liked them. they really gravitated towards that and making them work through the case study, right? So it's not about me. It's not about, Scrum or bad Scrum, good Scrum, who cares? It's about really teaching people to be Scrum Masters. And then there's nothing like a global pandemic to make you focus.
Yeah.
And it's here. So 2011, 2021, 10 years. There you go. 10 years.
10 years. 10 years. 10 years. So who would you say this is for when you said, okay, I'm going to do this, finally going to write the book? Who did you have in mind when you wrote the book? Who would it be for?
Some people are going to get really mad at me for the way they say this, but that seems to be, me in a nutshell, people getting mad at me. Recovering project managers. I consider myself a recovered project manager, and recovery is the right word for me because it was a struggle. I had a huge waterfall hangover that took a while to get out of my system, and that's who this book is for. It's for anybody who wants to be a great Scrum Master. It's like, how do I let all that project management stuff go, all that conditioning of that way of thinking, because in many ways they're quite the opposite. And how do I start getting people conditioned or to even practice the mindset that we want, for Scrum Mastery? So that's who it's for.
Anybody you'd like to thank? I mean, I know you did a lot of the work here, but anybody that you'd like to thank as well?
So very many people, starting firstly with Esther Derby and Pollyanna Pixton. We talk a lot in, the Agile community about women in Agile, hashtag women in Agile and whatnot. And I've never really been a joiner of that. And I even wrote a piece for the Scrum Alliance magazine a few years back, if folks remember when they had such a thing, about why do I have to be called a woman in Agile? Why can't I be an Agilist?
Right.
Why can't I just be called an Agilist? And Esther Derby was around at the time, that the Agile Manifesto was written. She certainly was one of the founders of the Scrum Alliance originally.
She was the first woman CST, I believe.
I believe you're correct in that. Pollyanna Pixton, heavily involved in what's now known as the Agile Conference, Agile 2000, 2021, whatever. And they're Agilists, so when I think about the way that Agilists sometimes treat each other in this community, it's not very nice. I mean, sometimes we're very critical of each other. We're very fearful of each other. We treat each other as competitors. And so who am I going to call up for help in getting this book out here and putting in a foreword? Well, two of the people who've inspired me, of course, yes, they happen to be women, but they also happen to be fearless and pioneers in this movement and don't get nearly enough credit. So I dropped a note to Esther. She immediately said yes. Dropped a note to Pollyanna. She immediately said yes. That's Agilists helping each other out. Yeah. That's actually supporting your colleagues in a community, and I can't thank them enough. And I think I need to do a big shout out to them on social media today. Michael Neer and his wife Chen did the editing, the illustrations, the coaching of this thing getting done. I could not have done it without them, and so they made this happen in many ways.
Awesome. The question I want to go to next. So say I'm a Scrum Master or recovering project manager and I read your book. How do you hope this helps me? How will this book help me?
I hope it really gives people a lot to think about. Even last week in talking to some people in a class, they think the Scrum Master is somehow a de facto secretary. Well, isn't the Scrum Master just a project manager? No, they couldn't be more different. Our shirts that we're wearing today, right? Title of one of the chapters, Get Your Hands Off the Team's Work. You don't see a coach run out onto the field of play and rip the ball out of somebody's hands. That's not coaching. So why do we think that Scrum Masters are somehow secretaries or somehow doing the product owner's administrivia or doing the developer's administrivia? The only way people learn is by doing things for themselves. I mean, if you engage a personal trainer, do they say, hey, Christian, take a break. I'll run the next mile for you. You take a break, buddy. I got
sign
this.
up for that.
Yeah, I got this. You're not going to get in shape. You're not going to learn anything. You're not going to get better.
But I'm working out.
By watching them work out. So Scrum Masters aren't secretaries. And I think the more we can reinforce that and reinforce the courage to get people doing for themselves, that's what they're really going to get out of this. And I mentioned the comment about women in Agile and why can't we all just be Agilists? I do see that happen to women in the community more so than men. I do see female Scrum Masters get looked upon as, oh, well, aren't you going to throw that on the calendar for us? Well, aren't you going to take the notes? I don't see that happen as readily to their male counterparts. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I know plenty of Scrum Masters who are men who say that that's happened too, but when they have the courage to say, no, that isn't really what my role is. My role is really more so of a coach. My experience is seeing that respected more readily than in the female Scrum Masters out there. So I'm really hoping that they get the courage to articulate to whomever is asking them to be a note taker, to not only politely decline, but then start turning that around. You know, what behaviors do we want? You and I have both been through some training on adult learning. And Jay Cross's book, Informal Learning, is something I have drawn upon for years in my coaching and in my teaching. And one of his brain science principles and the studies he shares is about writing. You know, people who actually capture the idea are so much more likely to retain it. So why then do we expect in an organization we're going to give everybody a secretary?
Yeah.
They don't get one going through college. They don't get one going through and learning their craft. So now all of a sudden we say, oh, we want innovation in the workplace. We want a learning organization. No, I'd like to stop learning. Please take my notes. It's like the people who write the most are going to learn the most.
Used to say that, you know, the scribe tends to know the most. Whoever's scribing the meeting walks away with the most knowledge. So why would we deprive them? What would be your biggest concern with this book?
Oh, well, there's a lot.
How much time do we have?
Right. First and foremost is not getting sued. So, you know, the anonymous quality of a lot of the case studies was important because no non-disclosures were violated. So people can rest assured there. But then we're so inspired on our team by movies. Anybody who's ever worked on this team or joins this team knows we like to have a lot of fun. And if you remember, the Scrum Gathering in 2018 was here in Minneapolis. Do you remember that?
Yep.
And we got asked to do a sales video because we were the big platinum sponsor. And remember how gross that felt?
It's like, we got to make a video.
Yeah, and when we were watching the
do.
playback, it was like, and you can take this class and this class. We're like, this just isn't us. This just feels wrong. So we chose to riff on that scene from The Matrix where Morpheus is offering Neo the red pill, the blue pill. And just as the video was getting too salesy, you know, you hear the
record.
And we have our Morpheus offering, you know, our Neo the red pill to stay at the conference and see how deep the rabbit hole about Scrum goes, or to go back to work and take the blue pill and do waterfill. And we had red and blue M&Ms as our giveaway, as our swag, and that just kind of stuck. And so when we opened this space that we're sitting in today, all the rooms are Matrix characters. So in having that carry through to the book, my first and foremost concern was let's let's not violate any copyright, any trademark. So, our good friends at Henson and Ephron made sure my I's are dotted and my T's are crossed. So that was the big one.
Yeah.
But the other thing is people. It's such a weird world these days where anything you say can and will be held against you.
Yeah.
So I try really hard to let people know this is a humorous attempt, or I don't mean any disrespect here, but I'm not quite sure how some of the information will land with people.
And that's probably normal, but when you write a book, you put yourself out there. And the moment in time has been captured, and time moves on. So perhaps, who knows, as time moves on, maybe some of these things change. And I remember Mike Cohn at the Scrum Gathering in Phoenix saying, you're locked, you're frozen in time, but time moves on. And he got up at that Scrum Gathering and said, some of these things have changed. And he pulled up pages of his book, and said, these have changed. Whereas this is telling stories. These stories are going to stand because they were experiences. But yeah, when you put yourself out there, I can see that.
What's funny about those stories is even though we've withheld the names to protect both the innocent and the guilty, people will swear to me it's their company.
That's me you're talking about.
You're talking about my company. No.
Didn't you even change pronouns too, like change gender and everything?
That is one of the big things. That is one of the secrets.
I just gave away the secrets?
No.
Okay.
Clearly it's dry in here. Good Lord.
The over-under was 10. We're way past that.
Well, I don't know, but the water certainly helps. No, the personal pronouns are all completely removed, which is huge.
Yep.
There's no he, she, him, her. There's none of that. And because these case studies have been road tested in our classes, I always find it wildly interesting when somebody's trying to recap one of them and they are talking about a C-level or like the CIO, and they'll say he. They just assume it's a man.
He. Yeah.
Or they just assume anybody in a power position, a management role is male. And when they refer to the Scrum Master, people will say she. And a number, at the risk of, violating any non-disclosures, a couple of the stories are about male Scrum Masters. But I intentionally stripped all the personal pronouns.
Which is good. Fun fact about the book.
That was it.
That was it? Okay, never mind.
No, that's
Got
okay.
another one?
No, I do have another one. I did used to race sailboats. I was on a team out on Lake Minnetonka, but I was also part of a team up on Lake Superior, and then I would hop on cruise. Whoever would take me, pretty much all over the place. California, Long Beach Race Week, Key West Race Week, Antigua Race Week. And so some of the sailing experiences are interwoven in there because it's so like empiricism. When we talk about empiricism in Scrum, which is a huge miss out there in the world of work right now, transparency, inspect, adapt. The bigger part is adapt. And I think that waterfall hangover is so strong with some people that they forget. Because how did we feel about change in project management? How did we feel about adapting in project management?
Yeah, we tried to push it off.
We discouraged it.
Yeah.
Discouraged change. And now we're coming along saying, change happens. You can't control it. The only thing you can do is figure out which direction you're going to go next. So I threw in some sailing anecdotes, so hopefully people find that interesting.
I see Michael Neer. Great to see you, Michael. Awesome. Thanks so much for chatting on us. Well, that sounds right. Chatting towards us.
He's from Minnesota.
That's true.
No, you're from Iowa.
No, originally I'm from Iowa. Born in Minnesota. Grew up in Iowa. All right, we're going to go deep. I was looking up questions to ask an author, so here we go. Get ready. How has writing this book helped you as a person? I had to put one of those in.
That's terrible.
I know.
How has it helped me?
Has it helped you?
It did, actually. One of the things that struck me in pulling it all together was how much I've forgotten. I've been doing this a really long time. You know, you see all this gray hair. I'm turning into the old lady in the community. I've been exclusively working with Scrum, whether that's as a Scrum Master or, now teaching and coaching, 16 years. This is the 16th year. And so in reflecting on some of those case studies or on some of those stories, I didn't realize how much I'd actually forgotten about the journey. I think it's really easy to do. And none of us wants to say, oh, I screwed that up. Oh, I failed miserably. But honestly, those are the reasons why I know some of the things I do.
Yeah.
I mean, think about, parents out there telling your kid, don't touch the stove, it's hot. Don't touch the stove, it's hot. Well, when the hell do they learn what hot means? The minute they touch the damn stove. Mm-hmm. So that's part of being an empirical learner. So I was struck by how much I had forgotten.
That's the hard part. I call myself a recovering perfectionist and don't like making mistakes. I beat myself up when I do make them, but to that point, as you're giving that answer, it's like that's part of it. Just being able to look back and go. And you're the one that helped me understand that. I thought you needed to have the perfect example or the perfect experience to be able to say that you know what you're talking about. And it's like, no, experience is experiencing. Really, the best experience is where you've probably had the most challenges because now you know the most, which falls in line with learning, right? You learn more from getting it wrong. And so I was like, okay, but I still don't like it. still not getting stuff wrong, but it's the way it is. Okay, so what was the most difficult part for writing the book?
Focus.
Focus.
I have the attention span of a gnat.
Of a gnat. I've never asked a gnat that, but I hear it's short.
So I had a hard time focusing. And a lot of stuff comes easily when you're talking. When other authors or people I talked to in pulling this together, like, read it out loud. Read it back out loud. Because it should sound like you're telling the story. It should sound like, you're just talking. And so I would set it aside and read what I wrote back out loud. And I'm like, oh, my God. I sound like I'm having a stroke. I sound like,
I've heard that. Are you supposed to write like you talk or talk like you write? So that's funny to hear that. Do I sound that way? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, and I thought, when sitting down to freeform, write some of that stuff, that's exactly what I was doing, but evidently not, right? Evidently something in my brain was inserting words that just did not need to be there, or that were in a crazy order that made it sound very confusing. So the hardest thing was finding the time to focus, or making the time to focus, and really rereading everything. And even then, I'm sure people are going to find mistakes or find something I missed, or then I only read it like a gazillion times and asked all of you to read it on the team. And so.
When would you write the most? Like at night, evening, morning? When would you write the most?
A couple of early mornings, a couple of late nights, weekends.
And this was all during COVID, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And, not to mention the added stress of trying to pay for this place and train, coach, all of that, run a company, run a business.
Be a mom.
Be a mom.
Be a wife.
Why not just start writing a book too? I mean, heck.
I didn't start though. That's the thing. That's the beauty of it.
That's the wrong way to say it. Why not just finish that book
that's
I've been
right.
working on?
Finish. Because one of the other things we do on this team is we leverage StrengthsFinder. And we have a teammate who got certified in it, and we all took the test again. I still have activation, in my top 5, which it's been there for years every time I take the StrengthsFinder assessment. And I never dove deeply into what those themes mean. So sitting down with our teammate and being introspective on that forced us to do it, which, I love so much. Because I always would say stuff like, well, activators get stuff done. Activators get stuff done. And she's like, that's not true. Activators get stuff started. But you suck at finishing. That is true. Got all these little balls in the air, right? So when I pair with other people, I get stuff done. So that's why, the big shout out to Teamnir. In working with Michael and his wife, I finally got that done. So they have some strengths that complement mine very well. But I don't know. That thing was 10 years in the making. So the pandemic just got me to focus and get it.
And the Nirs they've published books. They've published many.
Yep. Michael's got several out there.
And so it was really, here's what you need to do. Mm-hmm. Don't do this, do that. You got to figure that out. What's this?
Well, and that's the other thing. I had looked at the more traditional publishing route and really just got bogged down in it. Analysis paralysis a little bit too, because one of the things traditional publishers ask you to do is fill out their form. Well, me, individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So I start rebelling immediately. And the idea behind filling out the form, what they say anecdotally, is that it becomes the outline for your book, or it becomes kind of the jump start of the manuscript. Couldn't bring myself to do it. And just a lot of hoops to jump through there. And I think that was part of what turned me off a little bit and why I didn't get it done. And then there's all kinds of alternatives, of course, like there's LeanPub, there's other paths to self-publishing out there. Amazon certainly makes it easier. I know there are people who have strong feelings about that. For me, it was the best choice. For me, it was the quickest, the most nimble, agile way to get her done.
Got a question. Was there anything that didn't make it into the book?
So very many things.
Pick one.
That didn't make it into the book.
Pick the one in the middle.
A couple of the case studies for sure didn't make it in there. There was a whole piece that I was going to go deeper into with the Scrum framework, cutting room floor. There's too many books about Scrum out there. And it started to feel really confusing, right? About, well, are we trying to teach the framework, or are we really focusing on the Scrum Master? And I really wanted to focus on the Scrum Master. So there's plenty of stuff to read out there about Scrum, but I tend to just fall back on the Scrum Guide, and let's take you back to making choices, because that's really what it's about, and the Scrum Master can help you with that. But so a lot of things about Scrum hit the cutting room floor, and a couple of the case studies that I felt wouldn't resonate didn't make it.
Got another question online. Victor, will there be an audio version? That's my question.
Yes, there will be.
I'm not that strong a reader.
You will not be the one narrating it.
We need to have the docile tones of Rand Eaton.
There's an idea. There will be
He's shaking his head no.
There will be an audio version. We, in true iterative fashion, wanted to get something out there, and then it's coming. It's on the backlog.
It's on the backlog.
We're shooting for September. So, I hate to, sometimes when you give that answer, it is on our backlog, people feel like that's black hole, no transparency. We are shooting for September.
All right. What's the most, or one of the more surprising things you learned in creating your book?
That I can't talk good. No, I'm kidding. That I thought I
can't
thought
talk good.
I thought I write like I talk. I don't. I don't know what happens when stuff gets flipped around here. So I thought I was a pretty decent storyteller, but then putting that to paper, it really made me hyper aware of the way things get flipped around. And Dale Carnegie has this concept called word whisker, where a word hangs on your chin like a whisker.
Right.
Something that you do.
Right.
That you use over and over. So verbally, the one Christian just pointed out that a lot of people use is right. But when I write, W-R-I-T-E, my word whisker is truly, 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 truly. So in rereading it back, I'm like, where the hell? I must really feel.
So when are you not truly?
I must really feel like there's not a lot of honesty.
That's like, to be honest with you, like I'm going to lie to you every other time except for now. But to be honest with you, no, truly.
Yeah.
Really. So every other thing you've said is not?
Yeah, no. I have that. That's my word whisker.
Another question. Do you enjoy the process of writing? And will there be other books in the future?
I don't know if there will be another one or not. This one took 10 years, which just makes me so.
It's a good run. It's a good run.
Horrible procrastinator.
One and done?
I did like it more than I thought I was gonna. I'll say it that way.
Okay.
When we say, do I like writing, I would say I enjoy writing for the sake of writing. When there is a purpose, a deadline, or pressure, you know, the little Angela starts kicking and screaming, and I don't wanna, because anybody who's worked around me knows I carry an old school 3-ring notebook, and I write constantly.
Can't read anything she writes.
Can't read. No, it looks like a crazy person wrote it, because I kind of doodle and mind map
It's a mind map.
and empty my mind, and I enjoy that very much. This was different because it was for a purpose, and so then it's kind of like, oh. So sometimes if I would get in the right mood and not have that hanging over my head, like just don't even worry about it. Just, you're telling a story right now.
You're in a zone. Just go.
Just get it out, right? Then I would have to take advantage of those moments too, to try to keep going and not cut it off, because that mood might not strike again.
Clarity, transcendence, whatever they call it. Michael Neer says the next book is far easier, just so you know.
Oh, well, good.
So Michael's expecting another one.
Well, the people have suggestions, you know, in a lot of ways. This happened because of our students. This happened because of suggestions from our crowd. You know,
They came out of classes.
Yeah.
We ran the experiment and they responded.
Mm-hmm. And I remember in an ACSM right at the beginning of the pandemic, really impressionable group of people. I'm still in touch with a lot of people from that particular group. And one student in particular, Morgan, hey Morgan, if you're listening, came back and said, why aren't these in a book that I can get?
Yep.
It was just like,
Clarity.
no, it like hurt my heart, right? There were like little arrows shooting straight into my heart. And I said, the book that's on my hard drive?
Yeah.
That's not done. And that was right after COVID hit. So it was one of my first virtual ACSM experiences. And we had to figure out how to even flip, you know, the case study exercise into a virtual format. And that little guilt factor also added to it. But yeah, the classes tend to eat those up. And one of the things that wasn't in an earlier draft that made it into the final copy because of comments like Morgan and Max and others in that particular class made, they really wanted to know what happened.
Oh. Yeah.
I mean, so often when they come back and they say, here's what I would do if I were the Scrum Master, some people who weren't aware that those are my real case studies. Those are things that really happened. So
They want to know the end of the story.
they wanted to know what really happened. So that made it into this published copy of the book, and that was not in one of the earlier drafts.
Yeah, some people need that closure. It's just kind of like, well, what happened? What did we do? Boy, that thing was loud when I hit my elbow on that. What is something you are really good at that few people know about?
Well, see, now, few people, because we're a little too close on this team. I feel like there's just no secrets on this team. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a safe answer to that. So I wrote down, Ms. Pac-Man, because very few people know I could crush you at Ms. Pac-Man.
Madeline said you're good at cheerleading.
Yes, but there are people who know that.
Whenever you need to pick me up, have Angela do a great cheer.
And they're being serious about like a cheer. So
Maybe we should end this with a good cheer.
I was a cheerleader in high school. No.
Ready? Okay.
No. But I feel like anything else that I would say from a behavioral style or a personality style, people would go, we know, just because I'm an expressive and I wear my heart on my sleeve. There's very few secrets there, I guess.
Anything else you would like folks to know about this book, or anything I haven't asked you yet that you I would have?
Other than, I don't know anything in particular about it other than the sheer number of iterations. I didn't try to cram it full of things that aren't useful. I really want the case studies to be exercises that people work through. I don't want to be, just flip through it and then flip to the what happened. Sincerely, it is meant for somebody to take pen and paper, pause when they get through the initial part of the scenario, and think through what they would do, just to double check themselves or their instincts about people in the scenario, about behaviors in the scenario. It doesn't mean that the answer I give in terms of what I chose to do is the right one. It also doesn't mean it's the only outcome. It happens to be what happened, but that's a big caution that I give readers of this book as well. There may be an infinite number of outcomes that could have transpired. Somebody else could have made different choices. I'm just sharing, things from my perspective and what did actually happen. Because so often there's more to every story. There's certainly the perspectives of the people involved, and every time you get another person involved in a particular case study or scenario, now you've got even more perceptions and things to work through.
Did you see this as somebody working through it themselves, or maybe, somebody takes this to work and they're a group of Scrum Masters going through it together, like at a brown bag or something like that? That's where my head went, is that a group would go through like a case study, right? And maybe break it out over the course of a few sprints or whatever, and kind of do that as well, not just individually, but hey, let's read these two scenarios and then come and talk about what we would have done. That's where my head went when you were talking about it.
Yeah, and we certainly run some of our students in our ACSM through a similar exercise. Somebody on LinkedIn over the weekend, I'm apologizing because I didn't write down the name, but if you follow the thread that's going around on LinkedIn, you'll see it. They have a Scrum Master kind of community of practice. I forget what they called it, but they do a book club. And so one of them posted the question to the members of their book club and said, what do you think? Well, and I said, grab a case study out of there and work through it together. That would be perfect.
Absolutely.
That would be a perfect exercise for them to do.
And what's fun about running these through classes is, we knew what happened, or we know the outcome. Like you said, it's not right or wrong. It just was. But it's fun to get other people's perspectives of, it was our case study or your case study or mine, whatever. But then to have a different perspective, right? To have somebody see something that, you've looked at it so many times to where, okay, I know this scenario, this is what happened. And then to have somebody pick up on something that you missed or you didn't even think of. That's what I like about it, because you can learn from it from different angles.
And to that point, the other thing that I noticed, and I think in hindsight, I'm glad it took as long as it did to get this out there, every time we would run those scenarios in a class or with a different group of people, I started to see patterns of what people would answer. And there was a definite correlation to where their head would go if they were a newer Scrum Master or coming from a project management background. And it, like I said, it doesn't make it wrong, doesn't make it right. It wasn't getting to root cause. You know, it was going to some of those more mechanical aspects of Scrum where people think, well, that's what it must be. Most of what Scrum Masters are going to tackle are people problems. And that's just, you got people, you got problems.
Gerald Weinberg, 99 times out of 100, it's a people problem.
That's right. So I'm trying to get folks to look past those mechanical things and focus on the people skills. Like you and I have done our 2 versions of our podcast about mindset over mechanics.
Absolutely.
Because the mechanics without the mindset are rarely effective. So it's not wrong to head there. The bigger thing is the mechanic is probably being misused, or the mechanism is probably being misused because people don't understand the thought process or the mindset behind it. The daily scrum's a big one.
Yeah.
The case study about the daily scrum, the things people go to that have nothing to do with Scrum. You know, epics, user stories, they didn't point it well enough. It's like, that has nothing to do with it. That has nothing to do with it. Daily Scrum is transparency, inspect, adapt on our sprint goal. And then they'll say, what do you mean sprint goal?
Yeah.
This is an advanced CSM, right?
Exactly.
Right?
Well, that's with Scrum Masters. It's hard, and we all go through it, right? You know, you want to be a good one. You want to do good at it. You want to be good at it. And to your point, you know, we can slide to the mechanics real fast. And it's the good ones, the ones that are maturing in their process, that can pull back, not freak out, understand you don't have to know all the answers. And it is what it is. And can you slow down enough to observe, listen, and get to the root, because that's what you're supposed to do.
Yep. That's what I hope people condition themselves with working through those case studies to do, is to figure that out. And not to be afraid to fail. First attempt in learning.
I always try to put the context of, if we get something wrong during a sprint, it shouldn't bring your company to its knees. And if it's not going to bring your company to its knees, then it's okay. Run it. See what happens. We're talking 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It's not 10 months. So let it run. See what happens.
So we haven't given anything away yet.
Oh, we're supposed to do that?
Yeah.
What are we giving away?
I don't know. What do you want to give away first?
Well, copy of the book. I don't know.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Let's give away a copy.
How do you want to give it away?
You're asking me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just here to ask you questions.
We could give a copy away to somebody who posted a comment. You could even choose the number of the comment.
Well, how many comments have we had, Rand? 2.
And they're from people we know.
People we know. They already have the book. I'm going to go with the third comment. What was the third comment?
It's
Michael.
Well, then we got to give him a T-shirt.
Okay, we'll give Michael a T-shirt. Fine.
We don't say fine.
We don't say fine here. How about fourth comment? Who was the fourth comment?
Madeline.
Nope, can't give it to her. She's already got one. She's already got a T-shirt and a book. Anybody who wasn't us? Victor.
Yeah.
Vic Bonacci. What are we going to give Vic?
What's Vic want?
Vic, what do you want? You don't have to answer us, Vic. Maybe he jumped off already.
We can ping him.
We'll ping Vic, see what he wants. All right, we'll ping Vic. Cool. Awesome. We got to get Michael a T-shirt. Michael, let us know what size. They run a little small. And Angela's real big on washing them in cold water and setting them out to dry with cotton
Don't run
spun.
small. You threw yours in the dryer.
I just like to get the bigger one and let it shrink. So
Sounds like a personal problem.
Michael says, awesome. Let us know what size. I would order the size bigger, wash it, dry it, and then have it be perfectly fit. That's what I would do.
And we are showing the,
We have
company
to show the back.
brand,
We
but
can't
yeah,
see
you
the
can
back.
turn
Can I
around and
turn
model
around?
the back.
Model the back. Can you see the back now?
You can, there. Get your hands off the team's work.
There's a story there.
There is.
We'll stay away from that one.
Well, I struggled with
Because somebody really got hurt. There was a Scrum Master who really got hurt. And so they had enough of trust with each other to where the Scrum Master got hurt. They said too soon to tell the Scrum Master to keep their hands off the work. It was in manufacturing. The Scrum
Oh,
Master
I know
got
what you're
hurt.
thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's an inappropriate story.
That's why I stopped.
That is the title of one of the case studies, but I didn't know if we could get away with the title of some of the other case studies. There is a case study called "I Find Your Lack of Faith Disturbing."
Vader. Victor, you want a book? Okay, book. Book to Victor.
Because, Star Wars is now owned by Disney, and they don't play.
No.
So I didn't want to get in too much trouble.
Stay away. Stay away from that one.
But that came about because the CIO in question really did say to me, "Oh, you people in your Scrum religion."
You and your Scrum. Yeah.
And in my head, that's what was going through my head was, "I find your lack of faith disturbing."
But to be clear, she did not say it. The internal voice was not allowed to go outside.
I didn't say it out loud.
Yeah.
However, that is one particular scenario where I chose to step out.
Yeah. Step back, step out.
Step up, step back, or step out.
Absolutely.
And said, "Can't work with you folks anymore. Gotta go."
Gotta go. We feel bad taking your money. Awesome. All right, so book going to Vic. Thanks so much, Vic, for letting us know. Anything else that we plan to give away?
T-shirt. Someone else, another T-shirt.
I saw, didn't Rachel leave a comment? Rachel, let us know what T-shirt you want.
We will get Rachel's
Thanks, Rachel, for commenting.
info. Just give us an email address and we'll get it out there.
You can't send a T-shirt to an email address.
Email her to get her mailing address,
Okay.
goofball.
I was just I've never done that.
Never emailed.
No, never tried to send a T-shirt to an email address. The other question I was going to ask is, what was the scenario that you would say was you had the most satisfaction from? Like, yeah, that was good coaching, or that was helping them get to where they needed to get to, and you just was like, okay, that was good coaching. Not that you solved the problem, but you got them there, and you walked away going, okay, that was a good job.
One that's in the book necessarily, or
Either. I'll leave it open.
not necessarily. One that didn't necessarily make it into the book. I talk a lot about, the company that I worked with that supports Subway globally, and those folks have had a tough run lately. But it was really a good coaching story because I felt like I helped a lot in calming everybody down, which is odd coming from me because, I normally stir things up. But they had this problem where the CIO would walk around, and that's not a bad thing. Some people from a lean background may be thinking Gemba walk or go to Gemba, go to where the real work is happening. Yes, we want leaders interested in doing that. But he would just ask questions, not from a demanding point of view or asking them to do anything. And it wasn't a fault of the leader. It was everybody else. And it was everybody else's ego going crazy and thinking, oh my God, he came and talked to me. He must want me to do something. And then they would all just run around like chickens with their heads cut off, thinking they'd been deputized. to do something. Oh, the CIO said, the CIO said, the CIO said. And so when I was playing that back for him, he's like, well, does Agile mean I have to stop talking to people?
Yes.
No. I said, but you could say, isn't it a nice day out? And they're going to trip over each other to be the first one to raise the blinds so you can, see that it's a nicer day out, because people just naturally want to please our leaders. We want to meet goals and objectives. We want to help. So I said, you need to calm this down. He's like, well, if I'm not supposed to stop talking to people, what do I do? And I said, when you go up to see what's going on, and you said you're sincerely just looking for information, or you're making conversation, or whatever, I want you to be ridiculously overt about what you're doing. I want you to say, hey, I'm just stopping by to see how things are going. I said, and then do whatever you're going to do, chit chat, ask some questions, but I want you to close it that way specifically again. Hey, thanks for the information. I didn't ask you to do anything, but I really appreciate the information. And the first couple times I heard him actually do that, it was like, okay.
Sweet.
And all of a sudden everybody running around and feeling deputized and thinking something had changed calmed down. Because it's like, it's these assumptions that sometimes kill people, right? These little stories that they're telling themselves in their head, when that wasn't the case at all.
And wasn't he the leader that ended up saying, you have to calmly and consistently repeat yourself?
He uses the word relentlessly.
Relentlessly, calmly.
Repeat yourself. Because sometimes people don't get it, as you know, on the first try or the second try,
right,
or the third try. So you'll get these leaders who will say, well, I told them.
Yeah, they know.
I sent an email.
Yep.
Well,
How do you know?
you're assuming they saw it. You're assuming they read it. You're assuming they understood your intent. So one try may not get it. So I feel like I did a little good in that situation to answer your
Blanket
question.
statement to leadership. Do your people understand what you're trying to solve? Of course they do. If I went out and asked every single one of them, would they give me the same answer? You don't know. Absolutely.
That's terrible bossing.
That's terrible bossing. Any other questions coming our way, Rand? Okay. What would you like to talk about, Angela?
I thought that was his wrap it up symbol.
Is that what that is? He's like, yes, wrap it up. No, does this mean keep it going? No, this means wrap it up. All right. Well, that said,
There's only one piece of sign language Christian understands, folks.
That's true. That's right.
This means all done.
All done. All done. All right. So we know why this book was started. We got the history for it, and the Scrummaster Files: Secrets Every Coach Should Know is out on Audible's coming.
Right now we're live
September.
for Kindle and paperback. Audible is coming.
Audible's coming, and hopefully you're able to get yourself a copy and get some learning from it.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks,
Well,
everybody.
thanks for interviewing today, Christian.
Yes, you're welcome. Take care, everybody.